If you're not dealing with Kaye, it ain't the truth.
The Truth Talk Show Network Radio. Your 24-hour news station. The Flame Show, where every topic we touch is hot.
Welcome to The Flame Show, where every topic we touch is straight fire. We are on site at TOP, Texas Organizing Project, with the one and only Miss Community herself, Empress. Welcome, Empress, to The Flame Show.
Thank you. I'm so honored that you even decided to interview me.
Why would we not? A woman such as yourself. So when I introduced that we're at TOP, I want you to tell the people exactly what is TOP.
Okay. Well, TOP is an acronym. It stands for Texas Organizing Project. And the reason why we have Texas in front of Organizing Project is because we actually have offices in 3 counties across Texas. Dallas County here, where we are now, Harris County, and Bexar County. So that's Dallas County, which is the city of Dallas primarily, Houston, which is for Harris County, and San Antonio for Bexar County. So those are actually the cities that our offices are actually located in the counties that we actually represent.
Okay. Under TOP umbrella, I know they focused on several different campaigns, such as healthcare, immigration, neighborhood standards, and also you are the educational community organizer. What exactly does that mean?
What that means is when you start talking about education, first of all, I'd like to say, I'd like to just let you know and let folks who are listening know why TOP is here, okay? We are a grassroots, members-based organization. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. So basically what we do is we have members. We're a members-driven, members-based organization. Our members do pay dues. It's a very small amount though. And we have it specifically like that because we don't want people who are being affected by the issue-based campaigns that we have to not be able to receive the support and the help that they need, right? So what's the cost of Netflix? Do you know what the price of Netflix is for a month?
No, I do not.
It's about $12, right? So our members pay dues less than the cost of Netflix, right? So it equates to about $5 a month, and we have unique ways where people can actually sign up, right? So basically, one of the things that I believe is very unique about the Texas Organizing Project is we actually have campaigns that are based on support for members who are directly impacted by the issues that we are actually fighting to make change for. And I think that that's very unique. And what it does for the organization is it helps us to grow the organization, and it also helps our members to be very passionate and vigilant about the fight and the campaigns that they actually sign up to be under.
Okay. So you talk about the members. How many members do you think are in the TOP?
Altogether, I think the last time I heard Allison, my director, it's like over 300,000 members and supporters throughout, across Texas. So it's a nice base, and we're constantly growing. We're steady growing. One of the main goals for us this year that our deputy director brought out, Brianna Brown, is that we are going deep and also going wide. So we want to really build and grow our progressive bloc.
Okay. Well, I have been blessed to have the opportunity to actually be a community leader at one point in time with TOP. And I know one of the schools we focused on was Dade Middle School in South Dallas. So what actually is some of the issues impacting schools at this time in the state of Texas?
I'm glad you asked that, because sometimes people don't know. Sometimes people think they know, right? But when you are actually have boots on the ground, you really know.
Right.
To the folks who are being impacted by the issues. So the big issue that our members are fighting for is funding public education. Public education is under attack from the federal government down to the state, and it affects us locally. So what we're doing currently is we are fighting to fund public education in the ISD.
And I heard that the state of Texas actually cut the funds. Do you know why that is? Why would somebody really want to go in and cut educational funds? As it's always been said, our children are our future. If there's money lacking, that means the education system is doing not a great job as far as providing education to the kids.
Exactly. That is a great question. Why would the federal government and the state cut funding for public education? When it comes to school finance, I am no expert at all. So there's a small amount when it comes to that area that I really understand, and my knowledge and understanding of that is really growing because it has to, because we're fighting to get more money.
Right.
So from what I gather and what I understand and the things that I've heard, there's different reasons and different purposes for the schools not being funded correctly, right? So we can pull a race card, because we know that schools that are in the southern sector are underfunded. They don't get the best, and schools who are further up in the northern sector, they get the resources that they need, right? So, and what's really amazing is we live in a society that wants to put information out to cover folks' eyes, right? You have people who say things like, oh, well, racism doesn't exist anymore. Discrimination doesn't exist anymore. And so what's happened is we have this idea that, everybody just have to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, when they don't realize that we live in an economic system that is specifically designed to perpetuate the culture of poverty, especially in our communities of color.
I have to say something on that. When you talk about the schools in the southern sector, I remember going to, those meetings they have monthly with the school board meetings. And I remember the kids from SOC, which is South Oak Cliff High School, they were in there begging for funding because they had old books that was more than 10 years old. They had holes in the school. The school has asbestos. It was a lot of stuff, but they actually took money from that school and gave it to another school who didn't need as much work. So if you can bring us up to date, has SOC gotten the money and have there been improvements?
Yes, SOC has definitely gotten the money, and it is, so they're in the switch as far as bringing it from the people who actually have it and actually placing it in the hands of the folks who will actually make the changes. As far as I know, hasn't actually happened, but the deal has been sealed. That's also another group that the South Oak Cliff High alumni, it's a very strong group of folks who have been organizing and fighting this fight to make sure that kids of color receive quality education, right? And so back to your question, because it's such a broad topic, right? There are a number of factors why public education is under attack now, and why our state legislator is cutting funding for public schools, right? So what happens is schools have performance measures that they have to meet, and this is not an exhaustive list, okay? And some of the reasons why it may be beyond my scope, right? So, but I will only share with you what I know and what I've learned as an organizer in this fight. So what happens is schools have to be successful, and our district has measures to determine if a school is being successful, right? In a nutshell, is the school passing or is the school failing, right? And there's always that in between. The school is struggling. You have some schools in the South, in the southern sector, Oak Cliff, South Dallas, that come off of IR, which stands for Improvement Required, and then they go back on IR. So that's what we mean when we say schools that are struggling. And there's only a certain amount of time that the school has to actually come out of IR status. And what happens is, and these are other little factors, right? So you have the fruit, and then you have the root. You have roots, and then you have the fruit from those roots. So when schools are failing, parents oftentimes start coming up with unique ways on how to make sure that their children are receiving a quality education so that they can compete, right, in this world once their children graduate and either go to college or go to careers where they can have living wage jobs. So what happens is if a school is constantly failing, then the parents, who are the main stakeholders in this fight, oftentimes people forget. Parents are the main stakeholders, and that's where my job comes in. I empower parents. I give parents the tools that they need to be empowered to make sure that their children's rights are not being violated. I am not an attorney, though. I don't know the legalities of when it comes to stuff like that. But I do know certain things that take place that violates a parent's rights, only because I'm an organizer. Right.
Speaking of a fight, you and I both worked with Top on home rule. Can you educate the people on what exactly is home rule, and then why did we fight for that, against that?
Okay, so that was home rule. I think we defeated home rule. When I say we, I mean there was a coalition that was established from other organizations who knew that this would not be good for DISD, right? So the coalition is called Our Communities, Our Schools, or we call it OCOS. We're big on acronyms. And that coalition is still up and running, right? It didn't dismantle and disband once we defeated home rule. So we have in that coalition, you have teachers unions, you have League of Women Voters. It's just it's a large amount of community organizations who came together, and of course Top, who said no, we know that this is not going to be good for our kids. So basically what the home rule charter the home rule charter was advertised and given to the public as an answer to our failing DISD schools. And when you're a parent and you're not connected to an organization like the Texas Organizing Project that is going to give you the nitty-gritty as to how these particular movements will actually impact your home or your kids, then you're going to be in the dark.
Right.
And so that's another reason why I promote folks being a part of organizations like this, because you will definitely have light shined on the areas that are important to you. So parents were saying, okay, Texas, these schools are failing, my child is not getting a good education, and on and on and on and on and on, right? So home rule, which was there was a coalition that was fighting for home rule called Support Our Public Schools, and we called it SOPS, right? So this was their answer to the failing district, or to the district failing our youth. But there was a lot of questions that people needed to know. Number one, this had never happened before in the state of Texas. There was no district that was successful at creating a charter. Basically, in a nutshell, what the home rule charter was the attempted privatization of our public schools. How can you privatize a public school system when people are ignorant and they don't know? That's the only way you can do that. And oftentimes, like I said before, parents have a responsibility to their children to make sure that they're getting a fair and equitable public education. It is the law. People don't even realize that. It is the law. And so this is what home rule attempted to do. But there were so many other things that folks didn't realize, such as whoever owns DISD owns all of the land and the property and the revenue, the money, and all of that. So it was a lot of things that came into play, and we beat them. We won.
Right on.
Yeah. So now, as an answer to home rule's defeat, the coalition was like, okay, so our schools are still failing our black and brown kids. We still have to do something. We defeated home rule, but we cannot just fall back. The fights must continue. So what the Texas Organizing Project did as an answer to that, and as well as OCOS, because there was an executive summary that was given from OCOS about community schools. So we are champions for the community school model. And what that model does is, and we're fighting to use the community school model as a model for struggling or failing schools.
So when we talk about struggling or failing schools, when I think about that, I think about the turnover rate. The turnover rate is such as principals as well as teachers. And when I think about the teachers, I think about the Teach America program. What do you think about that? From my understanding, the Teach American program is when, just for example, teachers come from out of state, come into school, maybe do 3 years to pay off their college loans or whatever. So to me, when you constantly moving teachers in and out or moving principals in and out, such as Dade, because we know they had a history. Yeah. It was so much. Was it 3 principals running through it?
In our history, in TOP's history, we're working with Dade. There were 3 principals,
and that was like in under 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And then they had so many teachers as far as the turnaround, and that to me goes back to the Teach America program too. Not only just at Dade, but just period. So, what are your thoughts on the Teach America program?
My thoughts, and I'm glad you asked me that. I am no professional when it comes to it, but I do know that being in the field, I've had the opportunity to meet some wonderful teachers who were actually going through that program, and they seem to have a passion for the kids. But some folks are concerned with, like you said, the teachers are coming in, they don't know anything about our communities, they're not culturally competent, right? And then they just flux out and they leave. And so, the community is saying, we want teachers who look like our kids. We want teachers who have the cultural competency to be able to relate to our kids. And so you have that whole dynamic working there. I actually did recruit a Teach America guy. I forget his name, it slips me now, but I talked to him and shared information with him about TOP and the education program, and he came on board, but he did mention that he would not be leaving, that he would be staying right here in the Dallas area. So, and I actually met 2 other teachers who are going through that program. One said that she would be leaving, but one said that she was going to stay. So I don't know if that's something that they're addressing when they recruit their teachers. That hey, we have a need for folks who really want to stay. Because I had heard before talking to those few teachers that's what they do. They just come in and then they leave.
And they leave, and that makes it harder on the kids, especially if somebody decides to do it. I don't know, can they actually leave before the school year is even over? And then you leave the kids like high and dry, and then they have to adjust to another teacher, or how does that actually work?
I'm not really sure about how the Teach for America program works, but I think one of our members one of our members I think came from that program, so I can get back with you on that.
Thank you. You cannot talk about education unless you're talking about discipline. So sometimes in certain situations, the discipline that kids endure is harsh. Mm-hmm. It's like overboard. And you can even take it that some kids are so defeated that they don't want to go to school. So what do you think about the disciplinary actions that are enforced on children?
Well, TOP's model is we are pushing, and I love it because you're touching on all of the areas that the education campaign actually deals with. So the education campaign, just in February of this year, February 24th to be exact, we won a ban on discretionary suspensions for pre-K through second grade. This was our first policy change, so we are so excited about this. Now, some people might say, well, what does that have to do, with discipline? Well, there is a pipeline that is feeding our children
to prison pipeline.
Called the school to prison pipeline. And this pipeline is disproportionately feeding Black males into this, and as well, there are also children with disabilities who are being fed into this pipeline to prison because the diagnosis is non-existent. sometimes the diagnosis is there, but oftentimes it's not. So you have children who need special accommodations who are just being suspended from school, right? So the school to prison pipeline has, we've been working on it for about, as far as I know, about 7 years. Our members were very intentional about making sure that this is one of the things that we fight to curb and ultimately abolish.
Okay, in reference to the school to prison pipeline, from my understanding, which I don't have it right, is it based off the black males' third grade reading scores, or is it the math reading scores? Or have you heard that?
Well, I hadn't heard of whether it was math or whether it was English. I mean, or math or reading. But I do know that it is third grade. There's a way where they can tell if a child is going to be tracked for prison from those third grade test scores.
And so if people don't understand that, when we mention the third grade, prisons are actually being built based on that. So it's like, and I look at everything as that extra push. If we know that we have this amount of kids going to prison in this year and we building them, we need to somehow, and I know this is sad to say, but we have to make sure that we fill those prisons, because prisons are making money themselves. And that's the ultimate goal. So you can look at even sometimes the police department, if you will, they might have that extra push to help feed the prison. So you might see somebody over here stealing a Hershey Kiss and they might get a slap on the wrist, but you might see an African American child steal a Snickers bar and he might do 5 years, because it's still a money making system. And so when you get institutionalized, you might be in there doing a job such as a customer service. You think you're calling your credit card company, and really you're calling the prison system. So, yeah. So if you think about it like that, that's really deep. So they try to gauge it off the black male. So there is an extra push behind the scenes to get those jail facilities filled.
Exactly. And you know, the thing of it is it is definitely a matrix that we live in. You have the seen world, those that are woke, who are living outside of the matrix, and then you have folks who are asleep, who are in the matrix. They believe whatever they are told to believe. They think whatever they are taught to think, right? And we have a system, we have a society that we live in that has its roots in the dehumanization and in the deviance of a race. And so these old archaic mentalities are still woven in the fiber of our societies. You have the idea that whatever is black is evil and somehow bad and deviant. And then you have the idea that whatever is white is pure and wholesome and true and holy. And these thoughts are woven in the fiber of our societies. We know this. By simple terms, a child get hit by a ball in his eye, and then the result of that is a black eye. You go to a grocery store, and if the darkest cake you can buy in a store, the darkest cake you can make, is called a devil's food cake. But the whitest cake you go to a store and buy is called an angel food cake. So, and this may be, people say that this is a stretch, but no, we really need to look at it. It's hidden in plain sight. It's right before our eyes. Believe your eyes. We are taught not to believe what we see, but we must begin to believe our eyes.
Which goes back to the state of Texas cutting funding to public schools.
Exactly.
It's right before us and we see it, and now this kind of goes back as to why.
So why? So let's go back to this. So you have a culture, you have a system, you have a society that believes that wherever people of color is, there's variance, there's deviance, there's degeneration, there's degradation, and all of those other negatives. And so, I mean, it's not so bad that they don't, that they get the scraps, because they don't deserve nothing good. And we go back to these thoughts called, these ideas and terms is called implicit biases. These implicit biases are woven in the fiber of our decision makers, right? And so, I mean, the idea, Huey P. Newton said, we cannot expect the media to portray positive male black role models, because that has been the history of the media, is to paint us in a deviant light, so that when our rights are being violated and we're not being treated correctly, people are saying, oh, well, they deserved it anyway. You know, so we have to really begin to think about these things, because the thoughts, they begin to evolve, and it becomes each generation, it becomes a stronger and a stronger layer. So then you get to the point where, oh, well, you know, they just evolved into that because, you know, a while back they this and they that, and so there's really our rights are constantly being violated, and it's okay. I mean, we come from a history where they have dehumanized and put our ancestors in slavery. It's a 400-year slavery.
So when we talk about rights, let's not forget that TOP also has GOTV. Get out to vote. How do you feel about voting, and do you think that actually helps? Because there's a lot of people who feel that voting doesn't really help, that it's already decided on who's going to win. But I believe voting on the local level is very much as important as you vote for your president, because that's where all the changes come in. So what do you think?
Well, I just have to look back on history, right? We just had a great president, our first African-American president, President Barack Obama. And this is my opinion. If voting didn't count, how did he win 2 terms?
True.
You know, you just have to start thinking. Now, I remember standing in line the President Obama's first term, and I think that was the first time I actually voted in the U.S., right? Because I served a tour in Germany when I was in the military. And I remember the overwhelming sense of joy standing in that line with the knowledge that I'm about to vote for an awesome black man who, in my opinion, was the best candidate to vote for. And so he did his first term, and, you know, he did some really wonderful things. But for him to win a second time, you know, I had my doubts on that second time. I really did. I was like, oh, America's not gonna, you know, the Americans don't want another black, you know, they don't want a black man in the presidency for a second term. Mm-hmm. And then he won that second term. So when you start thinking about where this country has come from, the 400 years of slavery that is imprinted upon this country of our ancestors, and for a black man to be elected and then re-elected for a second term, you tell me, do you think voting counts? Because in my opinion, I do not believe that if voting didn't count, he would not have ever won.
I remember a couple of years back looking at a chart that TOP had where it showed the amount of people who voted, and it showed the people of color who should have voted, would have won. We would have had a different governor. Exactly. Basically, I think that's what the chart was actually displaying. So what is TOP doing to make sure that people get out and vote?
So what we do is we have GOTV, or Get Out to Vote, campaigns. And we actually make thousands of phone calls to folks, which is called phone banking. And we also knock on doors, you know, which is called canvassing, to get the information out to the public about the people who are actually running for particular offices, specifically those running for local elections. Because local elections, I mean, if we don't vote, we are definitely going to be impacted.
Right.
Because not voting gives someone else more power or more opportunity to actually become the victor or the winner.
Okay.
Right.
What type of events does TOP put on, as far as, because I want to say I went to an event in the past where it was like a voting type of event. Is there somebody we're pushing, when I say we, TOP, pushing right now?
Well, right now, we are in DISD elections. Well, actually, the elections have we're complete with the elections for Dallas Independent School District trustees, but there were some ties, and so we have runoffs, and that will be the runoff is on June the 10th, right? Not for all districts, but there are runoffs. I believe that's, I'm not sure, because I don't want to say which district, but I do know that there's a runoff for the ISD Board of Trustees in one district. And then there's also runoff in my district for City Council, which is District 7.
So what does TOP look for in a trustee to say, this is a trustee we want to push?
Okay, so what our members do is and we are an endorsing body, our members actually are able to be up and close and very candid with those who seek our members' endorsement, right? And so there's a questionnaire that the candidate gets sent that they have to fill out. And then according to what they put on that questionnaire and according to our intel, our data, what we gather about who they are, what they've done, they ask questions that would determine if it would be beneficial and advantageous for us to actually endorse them. Because when we actually endorse a candidate, we do work to get them reelected. Mm-hmm. And one of the things during the last term for DISD trustees running to either be elected or reelected, we required all of the candidates to sign a community schools pledge.
Okay, we're getting ready to wind on down. I have a couple of questions left. What does TOP mean to you, and why should somebody join TOP?
Texas Organizing Project to me means transformation and, in my opinion, revolution, right? Because we are pushing against those things that people would just normally accept as, oh, well, this is just how it is. So we're pushing against that. So that's what TOP means to me. It means transformation or transformative, right?
Okay.
And a person would want to be a TOP member because we would be able to empower them with knowledge and information and data, and also be a support for them. And they would also be able to be very active in the community.
Okay.
The communities that they live in. You know.
Tell us the next 3 events that TOP has coming up.
The next 3 events that TOP has coming out is we have a education campaign meeting monthly. Most our campaigns meet monthly, and those campaign meetings specifically deal with members coming together, sometimes voting on particular issues for the campaign, or talking about next steps and how we're going to move forward. On Wednesday, there's going to be an action at City Hall for immigration, and there's also going to be a Strong Dallas Coalition meeting sometime next week. But I can get back with you about the exact dates and times on that. We have many more events coming up, but off the top of my head, okay. I don't really know.
And my last question for you, Miss Empress, what are the top 3 core issues that TOP is focused on?
The top 3 core issues I would have to say is education, funding public education, neighborhoods, and healthcare. I would have to say healthcare.
Miss Empress, we getting ready to sign out on the Flame Show, but I want you to tell everyone where they can find you, as in TOP, and if they need to contact you, where can they reach you?
Okay, you can reach me at 469-203-0496. We are located at 400 South Zane Boulevard, Suite 1025.
And you already know it's your girl, Kaye TheTruth. If you're not dealing with Kaye, it's definitely not the truth. And you are watching The Flame Show, where every topic we touch is straight fire, from business news to entertainment to politics. And we're out.
If you're not dealing with Kaye, it ain't the truth.
For more shows, www.thetruthtalkshow.com.